all the spirits that we produce are clear to begin with. And really, in production, it's all about the plants. And what I mean by that is when you go to the store, you can find tequila and brandy and vodka and whiskey and all these different types of spirits. Well, what makes them different are the plants that we start off with. So if we start with grain, we're going to end up with whiskey.
Okay.
If we start with fruit, we're going to end up with brandy.
Right.
If we start with sugarcane, that plant produces rum. So the techniques are very similar for all the different types of spirits. It's really the plants that we start off with that make the difference.
Start with, yeah.
And so through the fermentation and distillation process, the spirits come out clear. And so the clear whiskey is unaged, and we sell that as our moonshine.
Okay.
If we put that in a barrel and age it for 2 or 3 years, then we have a straight whiskey or a bourbon-style whiskey, and it can be a corn whiskey or a rye whiskey or a wheat whiskey or even a combination of grains.
Oh, and you do all the different ones here?
We do.
Oh, that's cool. And so how long do you typically age? I mean, what's the longest?
Well, the longer the better in most cases.
Right.
It's really interesting when it comes to barrel aging the spirits. We start with, we're talking about the Ozarks. In the production of our spirits, we start with the Ozark Mountain water here, which is full of calcium and magnesium from our limestone with 0 iron. So starting off with perfect water is the first step for us. And then these wonderful grains that we use in the process to ferment and distill our spirits, and then the aging process begins. And what makes our aging process here so unique in the Ozarks is the Missouri white oak that grows here, in the Ozarks specifically, is world famous for making the best whiskey barrels. So it's truly a regional whiskey, from the water to the grains to
everything's from this area.
To the oak that we use to age our whiskeys. So the clear spirit goes into these brand new charred oak barrels.
You don't make those, do you?
We don't.
Okay.
No, we fortunately we have our friends in Lebanon, Missouri that make
but it's
our
still
barrels
local,
for
so
us.
you're not like buying these mass produced somewhere. So
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's just an hour away from here.
Oh, that's cool.
And so the clear spirit goes into our new barrels and begins to absorb and dissolve the sugars, the caramelized sugars that are locked up in the wood. So the caramel color that you see in whiskey actually comes from the oak barrels. And in the first 3 years of aging, about 85% of that flavor development, the maturity that happens, the chemical reactions that happen inside that barrel, 85% of that happens in the first 3 years.
Right.
And then you can age it longer, of course, and past that to develop that last 15% of nuance for the whiskey. But here at Copper Run, we have always sold our whiskey as fast as we've made it.
Right.
And so we've sold a lot of young whiskey. The Moonshine, as my friend Bubba says, Thursday was a good year for the Moonshine.
Your friend Bubba? That's
my
perfect.
friend Bubba. Isn't that great?
That's perfect. So authentic around here.
I love his saying. He would come up and sample a taste of our Moonshine and exclaim that Thursday was a good year for the Moonshine.
Yeah, that's great.
So the Moonshine, the unaged whiskey, goes into the barrel and begins the aging process. Now, the whiskeys that we have here for sale today are just at a year old. So they're still young. So we try and have developed techniques that create a very smooth and flavorful and rich whiskey that doesn't require 6 or 7 years of aging to mellow back out.
Right.
And that's done in our production with the techniques that we've developed. So we've sort of needed to find a way to make young whiskey taste good.
Yeah.
And now that we've just finished a major expansion for the distillery, for the first time, we're able to produce more whiskey than what we're selling. And this allows
so you get
us
ahead of the game a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This allows us to fill barrels and allow them to age. And the longer that whiskey ages, the more valuable it becomes.
Right.
So it's really important to us to plan ahead 3 or 4 years and create a very top shelf premium whiskey that's much more valuable.